Well, that is an inglorious beginning to this morning's Astro Weather as I all of a sudden sneeze out of nowhere. How is everybody? This is Robert Phoenix, and woke up with a little bit of a stuffy head today. I'm hoping that my uber strong coffee can kind of blow it out of the cosmos here. But wherever you are, I hope you are moving into your day gracefully. And if you are well into your day, I hope it's been a meaningful one. And I think we always kind of lose track of time, right? We have this day, then we have another day, and then we have another day. And eventually our days run out. And there are fewer and fewer days left in our existence and our experience. So maybe sometime today you can take note of the fact that perhaps it's not just another day. So yesterday, okay, I'll address it yesterday. I'll address it when we go to the start of the day. And it was something that somebody brought up yesterday about Pablo Neruda, which I did not know. I'll talk about that. I wanted to kind of circle back and maybe apply it to astrology if we can. But I think maybe a larger culture point. I really want to blow my nose, and I'm not prepared to. I don't have anything to do that with. It's just out of the blue. So let's get into it. Let's get into some astrology, and just hang in there with me as I kind of battle through this stuffy thing going on. Okay. So how's everybody feeling that Mars and Virgo? Are you having fun yet with Mars and Virgo? It's still in the inconjunct with Pluto. So there's still that intensity. There's still that roiling intensity beneath the surface of things. And what's interesting is the signs, because we have Pluto in Capricorn, and it's going to go back to the 27th degree eventually, which means that we'll have one more Pluto return here in the US. And then you have Mars and Virgo. And so we're both dealing with they're both earth signs. And the common theme here is that they would work together, but in the inconjunct, they don't. And it feels to me like there's a real disconnect around labor and meaning, because with Pluto in Capricorn, we're dealing with businesses and corporations and structures that do things like provide quote unquote jobs. And Virgo basically it represents the people that do those jobs. And it's feeling like there's a larger disconnect just right here when it comes to that process. I'll give you an example. So for instance, yesterday or 2 days ago, I forget which day it was, but I think it was Amazon's sale day or some shit like that. I mean, I wasn't really aware that it was happening because it didn't mean that much to me to go to Amazon and go scoop up on their deals. And so while that was going on, there were ample pictures of Jeff Bezos, who happens to be a Capricorn, and his strangely sculpted girlfriend, Lauren Sanchez. And it was one of those disconnects that was in the Mars in Virgo, Pluto in Capricorn in conjunct zone. It's sort of like they were displaying, their conspicuous wealth and their bodies that are sculpted by the best nutritionists, the best trainers, the best plastic surgeons. Right, so that to me is one example of this Mars in conjunct with Pluto, and you have all these people in the Amazon warehouse system and the people that deliver the packages. I'm not saying that the system needs to be dismantled so that the workers can take over the business. I don't really believe in that. But it was an image of this real disconnect between the sort of the heights or the top of the pyramid inside of Amazon and the people that actually kind of grease the wheels of industry. So that, again, there's a trickle down effect in your own life, which is this kind of rabid search for meaning in what you're doing and who you are and what matters. We're still in that zone. And again, I also feel like that there is this sense of disempowerment that is also part of the package. And I would say that one of the things that you'd want to watch out for today is, and I talked a little bit about this yesterday, is feeling defeated or feeling as if that nothing really matters. I think there's a high demoralization quotient for today. I mean, even with the Mars moon square, which is definitely prickly and sort of argumentative. It's like heat chafe. That's, to me, that's the Mars moon square. It's like you've got this underlying condition and it's kind of bothering you, right? It's an irritant. And there is this, so you've got that going on and an uncomfortable relationship with the moon. And in Gemini, we're sort of dealing with, well, I feel this way about it, or I feel this way about it, or I feel this way about it. And, it's one of those days where you have to be really aware of like circular thinking in your brain. But what's driving it all is Pluto. It's like, what am I doing? Why am I here? What does all of this matter? And I would say that it's an overused term, but it does feel a bit like an existential crisis with Mars in this inconjunct mode. And then we have Venus like squaring off against Uranus. There's just a high degree of restlessness that's floating around right now. And, the nervous energy, Mars and Virgo has very nervous energy, just like Mars and Gemini has nervous energy. So they're both ruled by the same planet, but very, very nervous energy. So you have to work the nervous energy off, but I would not overwork, right? Like I don't think really going out and like burning a huge amount of calories and exhausting yourself is the answer here. I don't think you really want to do that with Mars and Virgo, because if you do that, if you go down that path, just make sure that you charge up with electrolytes, because we're talking about the nervous system, and the nervous system today, I think, is pretty stressed out, actually. And so you want to keep your electrolytes up, and you want to try to maintain the myelin sheath on your cells, right? So I wouldn't say don't exercise or don't try to work out the tension, because I think there is tension that needs to be worked out, but don't overdo it. That's my advice in terms of just dealing with the tension. Don't overdo it. Also, I think, honestly, if you are somebody who does work out and does exercise, I actually think you could probably even suffer some injury here, especially with the Mars moon square. I mean, for me, it feels kind of unbalanced in a lot of ways, where like being distracted, and all of a sudden you're trying to do something and you're kind of working it out, and you don't realize what's going on around you. If you're a runner, hitting a pothole, or getting your I don't know, something caught in the equipment at the gym, because there's this kind of intensely Mars related activity where you just you want to just forget about things. You want to drill down, and there can be kind of an awkward unconscious awareness around your environment. And people have a really, really, really light trigger today with this Mars moon square, especially during the morning. A very, very light trigger. Is there anything redemptive about today? You know, what's interesting is Mercury is still enshrined with Neptune, and there are different elements. Mercury, of course, in Leo, and Neptune in Pisces. You know, it's a nice day for poetry. It's a nice day to kind of listen to things that have beauty associated with it. So if you're a music person, you know, the beauty and the melody and the harmony of music might be something that can offset some of the really jagged energy today. So I think there's some inspirational potential here. The sun is moving into a closer trine with Neptune. It's really interesting. It's I also feel like Mars and Virgo is challenging us to take notice of our automatic behavior, because Mars and Virgo sometimes is just really automatic. You know, it's just it's machine like. It's like, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done, get this done. And sometimes we do these things that completely out of a sense of habituation. So there's a different kind of energy that's available today. Are they mutually exclusive? No, they're not. They're not. So before acting, before, like, if you're still in the morning space, I would say take time out and kind of gather yourself. And if you meditate, do that. If you listen to music and you find something inspirational with music, if there are things that you read that are inspirational, you know, some people read the Bible and find inspirational things in the Bible, or some people read some other publication where they find something like that's a good day setter, because you need the day setter today. Because once you get past sort of the ability to settle in and breathe, you know, when I used to meditate, the quality of my days was generally better, I would say. I used to be a big meditator, and the quality of my days was much better. It was just like everything just seemed smoother after that. So you may want to try that today, because there's a lot of jagged energy that's floating around, and a lot of it driven by one's own kind of unconscious habituation, like the wheel. It's like the hamster on the wheel, or the you know the mouse on the wheel. That to me is very Mars and Virgo like. And if you get caught up in that today too much, I think that tempers are combustible, highly, highly combustible. Um, Real quick look at the moon and this trine with Pluto, which is kind of interesting, although it won't last throughout the day. So moon Pluto trines are good for self-possession when it comes to emotions and valuing. You know, the moon in Gemini is a funny moon, because you have to really talk about your emotions. If you've ever been around somebody who has the moon in Gemini or the moon in the third house, they will talk a lot about how they feel, right? I mean, that's how the moon in Gemini operates. So this offers another interesting alternative, you know, and talking about how you feel versus combustibly acting on how you feel might be a good alternative, right? So instead of being explosive and burning a bridge, and the thing with Gemini is great at playing devil's advocate. And if you have to go into some kind of negotiation today, I would say ask the person how they feel about certain things. Like, well, just out of curiosity, how would you feel about such and such or so and so? Right. And they would be like, well, this is how I would feel. I'm like, okay, well, if you feel that way, then do you think that it would be out of the question that other people might feel that way. And they might say, well, yeah, I don't know other people. I would say, based on the common theme that we're talking about, the answer would be yes. Now, all of a sudden, you've got a talking point. So if you have to go into that space, talk, the moon in Gemini is great for that. It's great for that. And what else? Anything else we have today? Let's see. There was something that grabbed my attention. Well, yeah, the sun sextile to Uranus. That's interesting. I really feel like this Mars in Virgo is all about programming and the habituation. Well, you get up, you do this, right? All the things you have to do in order to get through the day. And I feel like if you get caught in the hamster wheel, that you're not going to like it, right? And so there's some other energies that are saying, hey, look, there's another way of doing this, or set the table before you engage and have to do the things you do for the rest of the day, or explore another component of your being and approach things from a more novel perspective, which is the Sun Uranus sextile. So I think today's one of those days where you want to really be self-aware and catch yourself and say, you know what, this is really just some program shit I'm doing. And it can be real. And I know this sounds really mundane, but some people do the same thing, make the same drink, do the same thing every day, right? And I'm not saying to stop that, but sometimes it's just a minor variation. So let's say, for instance, you use vanilla collagen in your coffee. Well, guess what? If you have chocolate, why don't you try chocolate instead? Or maybe add a different supplement or whatever, right? Like it could be just that minor, because you want to break the spell a little bit. Because if you don't have the kind of self-awareness, if you don't have the sense that there's a more novel approach, you're locked in over here. And being locked in is, I don't think it's a good thing, because there's a high degree of frustration and separation between the things that you want to achieve and the things that you actually accomplish. But it's an interesting day. There's a lot of possibilities. I think there's a lot more possibilities if you don't get caught on the wheel. Just notice if you're getting caught on the wheel, and it usually helps before you go on the wheel. All right. Today's star of the day. Today's star of the day is Mr. Cheech Marin of Cheech and Chong fame. Now, when I was a kid, Cheech and Chong totally corrupted my life. And I'd like to thank my father for that, since he bought me the Cheech and Chong record, Big Bamboo. How he heard it, I have no idea. But I listened to that thing. I must have wore the grooves out on that. And then I got the other record, the first one they did before that. And that was back in the day when comedy records were popular. You listen to comedy on your turntable, and those fucking records cracked me up. I mean, their characters were so well defined, and they had the sound effects in the background. It wasn't like they were just doing stand-up routines, right? They were doing these vignettes, and they were fucking hilarious, right? Hilarious. And of the two, I would say that Cheech Marin has had the better acting career. Of course, he's a Leo on the midheaven, and he's got Pluto and Mercury there. And yeah, Pluto represents drugs. Come on now. Pluto's a drug planet. Pluto and Neptune are drug planets. And he's got a Neptune sextile to Mercury. So he's able to talk about drugs. He's able to have fun. Like, hey, drugs are fun. Drugs are recreational. Yeah, you tell that to a 14-year-old kid. That's a great message. And he made some bank. Like Cheech Marin has made bank, and he's got longevity, right? He's got that Saturn Sun conjunction in his chart. So he's, in a lot of ways, he's a lot more serious, I think, than he lets on. Certainly Tommy Chong is, but for different reasons. We're going to get into Tommy Chong in a second. as far as acting goes, the guy is an extremely hard worker. He's got Mars and Virgo, so he's coming up on his Mars return. And so his Mars square is Uranus, and he's going to be rebellious. I mean, that's the Mars Uranus square. Of course, he is rebellious. He's somebody that's an icon for the counterculture in the 1970s. And we have Scorpio on the ascendant. So again, of course, he's going to have this kind of dark persona at times, and but he's funny dark, right? He's the clown, and Leo is very much the clown. And he's got Jupiter in sextile with Mercury and Jupiter in sextile with Pluto. So he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to make a lot of money out of acting. That is for damn sure. But there's, again, much more serious side to him. And he's got this moon-sun opposition. And so I think there's a part of Cheech Marin that could be a bit mercenary, right? Even with the Sun-Saturn conjunction. So I don't know what happened with his partnership with Tommy Chong, but apparently they're not that close anymore. And, you know, for a while, these guys were money in the bank. They had the comedy records. They had the movies. I mean, they did the Corsica Brothers. I mean, really just incredibly prolific and very bankable. And if you look at them as individuals, like, you know, this is a guy from East LA, and Tommy Chong is, you know, sort of, he's this guy who's mixed and he's from Canada, and they would be very unlikely candidates to be in some ways so successful, but it's their humor that allows them to really become sort of, again, these stony icons in American culture. Now, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show you, because this is where astrology gets really, really good. I wanted to show you his relationship with Tommy Chong. You know, again, this is a partnership, right? A pretty significant partnership. And we're going to have Cheech Marin on the inside here of the synastry wheel. And it's right there, right? So this is Cheech on the inside. So what do we see? We see Tommy Chong's Pluto right on his Saturn. And that is really, really significant. You know, this is something that some astrologers would say, well, that's really faded. And yeah, so again, Pluto is one of the planets that connected to this whole idea of drugs, right? It's a druggy planet. And what's interesting is how much older Tommy Chong is. Like, Tommy Chong comes from a different generation. Like, Tommy Chong is my mother's age, which is kind of weird to think about. So he's part of the silent generation, and Cheech Marin is a boomer. So it's like millennials and Gen Z or something like that, right? So even that is a bit of an unlikely partnership. But over here, you know, Cheech Marin has that true node and Uranus in Gemini. So again, you know, Uranus, and it's in the 8th house, so it's rebellious. The 8th house ruled by Scorpio, again, a bit druggy. And so we have Tommy Chong's Mars right there, right in the partnership space. So they were very good for a while at being partners, right? And it's like, hello, where have you been? Come on, dude, let's go have some fun and make some money. And even with his Neptune conjunct Cheech's Mars, Neptune, the other planet that is, you know, associated with drugs. So here we have a druggy partnership or a druggy friendship with Neptune and Mars here. But there's more. Wait, there's more. So Tommy Chong's Mercury is Mercury in conjunct Uranus. So he's smart, right? He's made money off of hemp and CBD, and, you know, Tommy Chong is an interesting character. But it's, you know, both those planets are in Cheech's 7th house. And I would say that, I'll go on the record, that Tommy Chong might have been the funnier of the two. He might have been the funnier of the two. And maybe it's this Mercury-Uranus conjunction in Cheech's 7th house that is kind of the fire starter for their partnership. It's just really interesting. And of course, Tommy's a Gemini, and again, falling into Cheech's 8th house. And he also has this Sun's South Node conjunction, and the South Node being in Taurus. That's a whole different story. It's not really about Tommy Chong, but this is a really interesting chart for a partnership. And clearly, it's the Mars True Node conjunction in Gemini, one side completing the other side, in the 8th house, exploring verboten material, like stony material, and becoming incredibly successful as a result of their partnership. I think ultimately, probably Tommy's moon in Aries opposite Cheech's Jupiter and his Chiron, and to some degree his Neptune, that could have been problematic. That like maybe Tommy felt like he wasn't getting enough, or there's something here in terms of trying to balance some of that out. And also, Uranus in the 7th house doesn't always, portend long-standing relationships. Like Uranus is kind of seasonal in some ways. People come in, they kind of have a unique purpose, and then the purpose is kind of done, and as quickly as it starts, it's over. So I would say that they got a pretty good run out of this partnership with Tommy Chong's Uranus and Cheech's 7th house. And I think some of that has to do with Pluto and Saturn, like locked in. And, again, we've got work to do, right? And as much as, they had a lot of fun and were able to portray, stoner culture, they worked their ass off. These guys worked a lot. And they whatever they got out of their deal, I don't think it was anything that was really given to them. So there you go, a little Cheech Marin, and eventually, I think his next big partnership is Don Johnson. He and Don Johnson became really good friends, and did Don Johnson's TV series in San Francisco. What is it? Nash Bridges. That TV series is a whole other story and chapter. That was Don Johnson's entree into San Francisco socialite life. Led him to some very interesting relationships, including the daughter of one very, very wealthy San Franciscan. Don Johnson's nobody's fool. Here we go. 15 minutes of flame. We had a good show yesterday. Pardon me as I have an impromptu just wiping the nose. I apologize for that. But we had a good show yesterday, and we talked about the sound of freedom and this whole idea of the inconsistency around truth. And it's to me, it's an interesting dialogue, especially with Mars and Virgo, and how we're so almost zealous about purity. And it's really funny too, because we played the Looking for Clues by Robert Palmer and on the show, because I play a piece of music at the beginning of the show, and I'd never seen that version of the video. There was a different one for America, I think, and the version for England was really, really odd. It was kind of a cross between Eyes Wide Shut and The Shining. It was humorous in some ways, but in other ways it was kind of uncomfortable. I'm going to talk more about that video and Robert Palmer, and something I learned about Robert Palmer yesterday after the show, but you're not going to hear it here. I have to parse my content out a little bit. I am going to hit some CBD this morning, and when you want CBD, you want to go to True Hemp Science. That's truehempscience.com. If you spend $100 or more and type in 15MINS, you will get free product. You'll get lots of goodies in your goodie bag. So that's 15MINS and True Hemp Science. That's it. That's your place for all things CBD. $150 or more, get you free shipping. And you can always make an appointment on the website to talk to Chris about what the best products are for you. All right, everybody. Oh, did I want to talk about Neruda? Let me do this because I said I would mention it, and I wanted to bring this up. Let me see if I can go back here and get into comments. So where is it here? Let's see. Where is it? Okay, this is what Sabrina said. I want to bring this up, which I wasn't aware of, but I think it's an interesting, I said I would address it. And she said, my daughter, as I call her, is a perfectly ridiculous being. I did not stop reading Neruda because he was a communist. I stopped reading him when I found out how he treated his daughter, Malva, born in 1934. She came into the world with a severe disability, hydrocephalus and blind. Neruda was physically repulsed by her deformity and ugliness and blamed his Dutch Javanese wife, Marika. Despite being an important diplomat, he denied them economic support and help leaving World War II Europe, but did assist many Reds in their escape from war-torn Spain. Is that Chiron opposite all those planets in the fifth house? Malva died in Gouda, aged 8, and this most sensitive romantic poet had no beautiful words to dedicate to his daughter. So that's a really interesting comment and thing to say about Neruda. And I don't think that his stance with his daughter is mutually exclusive to his relationship with communist dictators. I think one could make a case that it might be built into the ideology. I'm going to play devil's advocate here just a little bit. Just a little bit. And I think it's really, really hard for people to understand sometimes what the fate, or what the, I don't like to use the word fate, but what the quality of a person's life is going to be like. And I'm not condoning Neruda's abandonment of his daughter, but at the same time, what would be the quality of life for a person who is blind and hydrocephalic, big giant head? Like, probably not very good. Like, not a very good life, right? And I don't think Neruda was practicing a form of direct eugenics, but maybe indirect eugenics. Maybe somewhere inside of himself, he realized that this girl had no chance. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the case, but again, it gets into this idea of perfection and how we think things are supposed to be. And, don't know. We don't know how. I mean, who knows? Maybe his daughter could have grown up and, been this amazing poet in her own right, or, John Merrick, the Elephant Man. I mean, who knows, right? I mean, there could be that version of her destiny. We'll never know. And maybe through neglect, he was facilitating what would ultimately be her merciful demise. I don't know, but we just don't understand things at times. How he responded and maybe how he treated them, maybe that is probably the more important part. But I think who was it? Sabrina brought up a good point. And I don't think that his treatment of his daughter is inconsistent with his treatment for her, or his love in some ways for tyrannical dictatorial types. There you go. Just wanted to address that. All right. Thanks for being here. Please join us over on 15 minutes. In the meantime, have yourself a great Thursday. at wherever stage of the day you're at. And we'll be back here tomorrow on 15 minutes. I think I need to get a guest. Anybody want to be on the show? DM me if you want to be on the show. But you got to qualify. You got to qualify. You got to pass a rigorous test of show qualification. Anyway, I have a guest in mind, but who knows? Maybe somebody will DM me. Say, yeah, have me on. This is what I do. This is what I'm about. And I'm like, okay, it is your lucky day. All right, take good care. Use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to set what's possible.